Hello, my name is Dr. George Machaki, and I want to welcome you to Global Business Basics. Just a basic understanding. You're taking me either on an online class or a face-to-face class, and this is just a quick overview of what you've already we discussed in the discussion board or from our readings. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Why trade? From small business, from a retailer perspective, what are some of the advantages of trading? Basic things, export, import. I'm not going to get into that. You should know the difference between this by this time. Measurable global trade, and global trade has really been changing. We had the Trump administration last couple of years, so went one way. Now we have a new administration. It's kind of, we're not sure which way it's going right now. So from a business perspective, a lot of businesses are kind of let's wait and see which way it's going to go. We don't know how China is going to be receptive coming back here. We don't know how Mexico and some of the other things. We're going to talk about different trade agreements. The most current one was the USMC. I have to make sure I got the right letters. United States, Mexico, and Canada, which replaced NAFTA, North American Free Trade, and basically just gave you, they tweaked the things, just brought it up to standards, a little more negotiation, a little more protections on both sides of the three countries that are working, but it did shift the narrative from a global perspective to more of a nationalist perspective, just by the name before, okay? And help getting trade and strategies to enter. Strategies to enter is, especially for small business, is not really that hard because you have a Visa, your payment, everything else does the exchange rate for you, and the mail, U.S. Mail, and other agencies here will set up and help you set up so you could know how to send stuff, your goods or products to different countries, or how they send it back to here. And if you look at Amazon, look at how much stuff I get stuff from UK, United Kingdom, or England, for lack of better words, right? So when I get that, I order it on Amazon, or I order it on the line. Within a week, it comes to my house. FedEx. They're global, so it's not as long as you think. So if you really look from an economic and a trading perspective, we are kind of like one big trading block. But the thing is, are we one whole, or are we separate different trading blocks? And me as a customer, I want a little bit more of this kind of treatment or this kind of quality, so I will go for this trading block or this. So you're looking at the trading blocks and not just one store to buy everything. So that's the way I look at it as when I look at global. I know that it used to be to bring it all together as one. There's only one store, everything's all equal. But that's not, guys. I go to Walmart, and it's a little different than going to Nordstrom. And Nordstrom is a little different than going to Macy's. Walmart's a little different than going to Target. Sam's a little different than going to Costco. Similar, but it gives me some flexibility of what they're focusing on, instead of going to like a superstore and everything's there and geez, too much stuff. I really don't have any choice. I'm always set up with the same kind of experience. Part of business is, even global, is to have a different experience, a different flavor, a different kind of a culture, That's what makes us go as humans, as a population, for lack of better words, right? And especially for marketing. All right. So why trade? Let's go real quick. I'm going to come in here. I'm not going to go through all this. I'm just going to go through. No one can make the products. Everything they want, so it's easy to trade, and we'll talk about I have some natural resources, U.S. has natural resources, China has natural resources, and part of the natural resources could also be human resources. There's more people, more jobs, wages, and everything else. So when you're looking at resources from an economic perspective, how do I use the sovereign wealth of a country to leverage this certain area, this region, to sell my products or my services or my expertise globally, so other people say, hey, they do a really better job than we could do it, so let's do it. And that's what we talked about, absolute and comparative advantage. Absolute advantage, I have the advantage, fine. Then you're the number one, benchmarking. But if I coming, I don't have the absolute. I have a comparative advantage. I'm pretty close. I had to make the decision. And the basic decision is based on cost. Now, because of the COVID-19, it's not only cost. If we get everything, because our cost, labor cost is less, even transportation, we get everything from one logistic area, let's say China and India. That's usually where we get most of our goods. Something happens to that chain, that process, and it's not that I'm not talking about war or anything else. Some natural disaster or something happened with COVID-19, and that section is isolated, and I need that component to build my component. Business. Oh my goodness, I don't have a way to build this. I have to find another resources. So what's happening now, a lot of businesses still looking globally to get the best deal, but they also have smaller manufacturers, suppliers that are producing the same amount of goods, but the higher end or lower end, it depends. So just in case something happens, I will pay or even subsidize these small ones, either whether the government or an industry as a whole to keep them going. If you look at the auto industry, it doesn't make sense for them to make a knob or something. I'm going to say I've got some kind of a knob I got to make, and it costs too much money. I'll have a small injection molding company locally just make. I need 1 billion of them. That's all they do, make knob, and I'll subsidize them. I'll get the machinery. I'll get something else to pay me back. I give them a good deal on that. That's nothing wrong with it. That's making an alliance, a contractual alliance, helping my supplier. I'm up here, but now I have something in here. But some of the bigger items, I bring it over from China. I bring it in from India because economies of scale is to my advantage. All right, natural resources, competition keeps it down. China and India, I think it's 1.5 billion residents, for lack of better words, in each country, or constituents, however you want to call it. As they go developing country, they got China developing country. I don't think China should be there. That's just my personal opinion, not the author. China's pretty darn developed. They're eating, they're taking us for a ride. The way I look at it from perspective, I like the cost and everything else, but if I'm looking to be competitive against them, I can't be. We talked about in here, they talk about some advantages, disadvantages. They talked about dumping. What's dumping? It means the government's involved, and it subsidizes their host industries. And I think I have someplace in here. Subsidizes the host industry for so even if I'm not as effective and efficient as a process should be. That's what the market system. Remember, when you look at the capitalistic system, it works on efficiency and effectiveness, and that I'm buying the right product and bringing it to the market to the right customer niche at the right time and for the right demand because I have the right supply. If I don't know how to work that logistic change, because no one's helping me on that, I go out of business and another company will come in that understands that process. That's where businesses grow. So the ones that cannot compete competitively are washed away. Not washed away. They say, okay, you can't compete. But now, that doesn't mean you can't compete competitively because you could charge higher prices if they feel they have added value. I get something from England. I get something from France. It's made in France. I get something made in Italy, from Rome. You know, talk about, ooh. So that will put some added value to it. It's still made out of wood. It's just a region. It has some symbolic meaning. It may not, but it's all marketing. It has that conception coming in there, has that brand. It has so certain countries. If I buy wine, even though California has very good wine, you can't really tell the difference. I can, but people say, "Oh, you got to buy wine from Italy. You got to buy wine from here," because that's what they've been doing it for all their lives. Doesn't mean they're doing it right. Just kidding. All right, so we have that. Okay, so I'm not going to go. So you got your advantages, comparative and absolute. All right, so just real quickly, U.S. used to specialize. I think it's India now. Absolute. They go South Africa. I think right now, if I look at manufacturing, what I'd be absolute, I would look at China for labor. And if I had to have human labor, Japan, if I'm looking at robotics, Japan is very robotic. When I talk, they're cutting edge. The U.S. is out there, but they're really up there. Very close. Same thing with South Korea. All right. Okay. Export, you export in. Import, you measure of trade. Trade supply, balance of trade. We always had an unfavorable balance. Would you like President Trump or not? He was bringing a balance of trade back. What he was doing, he was adding tariffs. Remember, there's two types of tariffs: unfair tariffs, dumping. We talked about that. Balance of payments, unfavorable because we bring in more than we export to that country. So basically, we owe them more. All right. But when I look at tariffs, there's two types: protective tariffs. In this case, I don't get to it, and what do you call it? A revenue tariff. Revenue tariff, look at the tollway. Hey, because I can. You don't want to use the tollway, take the regular road. But it takes me half an hour longer. Pay for the tollway, for the tolls. So that's revenue because they can. Certain things the government puts a tax on because they can. You know what I mean? Certain luxury items. They put a tax on it. Why? Are you protecting the animals or anything else? No, it's just because we can. We need some revenue. No problem. All right, so that's revenue tariff. Protective tariffs is basically to protect an industry. If I look at steel, they ship the steel all the way from here, from China and here, and then we make, our industry cannot compete with that steel. So what happens, because if they can't, even with the technology, it's going down, 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 the industry after a while fades away. It can't, very few, maybe very small steel mills doing some special things, but nothing on a large scale to supply the nation that needs some bridges. Remember, steel isn't everything. You don't think about a war machine. Forget that. Bridges, airplanes, cars, even cars. Well, it got a lot of aluminum, the chassis. There's a lot of materials uses for steel, even the wind turbines that turn up there that generate electricity for the Green Deal. That's all steel generated. Even though you have aluminum and everything else, you need those structures, the tower. So steel has to be there. So eventually they'll go away. They can't be competing because the government there, the Chinese government is involved. That's just the way their system is. It's a communistic slash, for lack of better words, semi free market socialist system. There's no pure system. We're not completely capitalistic. They're not completely communist. Pretty close, but not all the way. Same thing with France and so Italy. They're more of a socialist. So what do? There's some government involvement. When, if you remember, from socialism, there's more government involvement, a little more regulation. You pay higher taxes because they tell you what you could do and you can't. You want to do that? Fine, but you got to pay me more. Taxes, because they're taking a sovereign wealth, the wealth of a nation, and that's supposed to be spread evenly again among its citizens. Whether it's not or not, if it's not, then you have a revolution. Because if you only have the elite that get it and the working class don't, they're upset. And no different than you doing business. If I always get the management, I'm getting the higher raises, and my workers are just getting peanuts or just surviving, they rebel by going union, striking, everything else. So when you look at what's happening in business, you look what's happening in society, you look what's happening in countries, look at countries as one big business. Basically it is, all right? It's got some other things. You're a shareholder, for lack of better words, if you want to do them, and you vote into the board of directors. That's your, what do you call it, the House of Representatives or the Senate, and then you get your president or everything else through the electoral college, all right? All right, so we got that, balance of payments. Let's go for unfair practice, dumping. Strategies, answers, real easy, joint ventures, strategic alliance. Foreign direct investments means that basically buying property there. And just like China and Mexico, they did, a lot of companies buy property here and they pay taxes, so they become like they're more involved. They're not just like a tourist visiting. Otherwise, you just have you have import and export companies. Don't have anything in the host countries. Okay, multinational organizations, they look at the whole world as one big market. They have no loyalty to any country, any government. They look at which way would make more return on my investment, and have that in finance, going back to my shareholders or the owners. Okay, so you start off with licensing, franchising. We talked about things in different types of business models, contract manufacturing. manufacturing. I don't know what I really want at that time, but I just slot out that time. It's not like a timeshare. So inside, here's from this time to this time, I'll tell you what I need. And this manufacturer does it with cotton or clothing. I just tell you what colors I want, what's the print, and I'll send them that through some kind of AutoCAD or some kind of electronic version. You put it in a computer. It's all done. Life is different. Life is something else. Pretty soon I won't even have me. I'll be either a hologram or I'll have a robot. They'll never get anyone like me to look so good. Come on, lighten up a little here. All right, so we have that. How do you get trade? You've got the government export system, sovereign wealth, size of the funds. And if you look at China, it says, we'll help you build your infrastructure and everything else. Oh, you can't pay. Okay, we take the oil, we take the land, we take your harvest. It's a contract. It's no different than business. You make a contractual deal with me. You're not able to pay your commitment back to me either by interest rates or whatever. What do you have? Okay, you're working for me. What do you have? I'm going to take something and make me whole. You signed up. I did something. It's fair. Otherwise, I'm defaulting or go bankruptcy. And if you look at President Trump went bankrupt a bunch of times. You go, oh, geez, he doesn't know. No, from a business. You have a business, you have operation, you look here, it's costing me so much, I'm breaking even. What do? Get out of the business. No different than some people walk. I'm going to say it's right. But this legal way of getting out of business, holding off your credit, say, whew, I got to restructure, I've got too much bills, I'm paying you guys too much, or whatever, gals too much, or whatever, different suppliers, I go into bankruptcy, I let the court take over, split it up, you can't go after them, and we restructure, we settle our debt, and we start all over again. Who pays for it? Sometimes the taxpayers, sometimes the company, sometimes the suppliers. But remember, just that burden cost, you take it for accounting, just that cushion, you have a cushion, it cuts into their profit margin. All right, so we have that. What else we have? Sovereign wealth. We have, what do I have on here? Forces, tariffs, quotas, when the tariffs were up, who was paying for it, even though, so their goods were higher, the Chinese government was picking up the tab because they still want to sell their products, they keep their own their own constituent citizens employed. Remember, you got to keep everybody healthy. So you'll find a balance. Remember, when you're going for anything else from one region to the other, one once had the advantage, the other one doesn't have the advantage. In a couple of years, one has the advantage over the other one. You try to get a working relationship. That's what you have to do in business. I'm always looking for a working relationship. Same thing you have to do with countries, a working relationship. One size doesn't fit all. That's communism. Basically one size, but it doesn't fit me. Doesn't make a difference. It's big. It fits, doesn't it? It goes over your feet. I want this size. I want this color. I don't like the chrome. I want gold. I don't like the glass. I want diamonds. Whatever. Remember, we're used to customization. A lot of countries, a lot of people want custom. They don't want to be everyone the same. One size. I want a little different. So you're going to find that balance. Even globally, there's the balances working out. Companies go through the structure. Depends what the customers, the constituents in different areas and the forces affecting what that balance is. All right? What do we have on this one? 5L. Okay, then you got the exchange rate, how much my currency is worth over something else. They're talking about some big reset coming. Right, it's not in the book. The reset is they're going to go reset more into a digital currency, no more cash. It's easier for them to track. It's easier for you to track. It's also easier for you to lock out certain accounts. But then now Bitcoin is similar to like paying cash because it's not with the banking, or is it? So there's a lot in here. Take me for finance, right? This is just what you have to. The evaluation, your currency or their currency, counter trader, what's the legal requirements in China versus us, environmental factors, what factors you have to do if you're doing business in California, stricter environmental factors than if you're doing something in Tennessee or Kentucky or even Illinois. Illinois got fairly strict environmental standards, but not as strict as they have in California. Okay, some of the legal concerns you have is no global systems of law. They're trying to make it all now. Will that work? Is it good? It depends. Look, if I had to do, as a small business owner, if I had to have the same rules and everything else as a Motorola or a Baxter, I can't survive. I don't have that legal ability. I don't have the cash flow. I don't have to do that. So you can't have one size. You have to have, okay, he's smaller, or this business is smaller, this segment is smaller, they don't have to do all these, or they have to do this but a minimal. Okay? All right, consistent and general information and trade agreements. We talked about this. World Trade Organization, the WHO, European Unions. Yeah, I think UK left, kind of left. I don't think they got a good deal, but it's from my perspective. When I look what they did, because I'm a business person, look at the perspective, and these are different trade ones. And then here's the USMNC replaced, for lack of better words, a NAFTA. Okay, North American Free Trade, and I'm just going to end with this here. If I look at NAFTA, where the heck are we? Let me go in here. World Trade Agreement, USMC. Okay, here it is, North American Free Trade Agreement. This is the one present. This one here brought up current to this standards with new regulations, wages, everything else, e-commerce, moving goods, everything else, new labor, so they're more competitive with us, so people aren't moving, more jobs come in here. Certain percentages had to be built here in the U.S., not shipped over and put together here. So it has something going on there. How it's going to be beneficial, we'll see what happens in the year. I just wanted you to be aware of that. Remember, things always changing. Okay, so we have this. Okay, so that's basically this whole chapter on here. We covered everything else in here. Read the textbook, do the things. It just gives you real basic information. Just so you have a general understanding. Okay, I'm done, and I'll see you in the next. I think the next thing we'll be talking about in this one is either accounting or something. You're going through a series with me if you're taking me online class or face-to-face or blended or a strictly Zoom or WebEx class. Welcome to my world. I just have to find the recording. There we go. 21 minutes. This is perfect. This is about the right time. Thank you very much.